Good evening, you're watching London Live News at 6 with Helena Warrior. Coming up tonight, 3 people have been stabbed as members of the public tried to intervene in a phone snatch robbery in central London near Liverpool Street. The Home Office has suspended an immigration official and ex-Metropolitan Police officer after a BBC investigation alleged he had been posting racist content on WhatsApp. We'll have an update on London's weather in the next 10 minutes, plus Good evening, you're watching London Live News at 6 with Helena Warrior. Coming up tonight, 3 people have been stabbed as members of the public tried to intervene in a phone snatch robbery in central London near Liverpool Street. The Home Office has suspended an immigration official and ex-Metropolitan Police officer after a BBC investigation alleged he had been posting racist content on WhatsApp. We'll have an update on London's weather in the next 10 minutes. Plus, London-based anti-homelessness charity Glassdoor is holding their annual Sleep Out tomorrow, aiming to raise £200,000 and support people experiencing homelessness here in the capital. And a record-breaking relay race that spans over 7,000 kilometres and includes running, cycling and sailing will pass through the capital this weekend, all in the name of climate action. First tonight, though, 3 people have been stabbed as members of the public tried to intervene in a phone snatch robbery in central London. According to witnesses, a group of 2 or 3 masked people, thought to be teenagers, grabbed a pedestrian just before 10 a.m. this morning in Bishopsgate near Liverpool Street Station. Members of the public then sought to intervene to stop them, and in a situation described by one witness as escalating so quickly, 3 people were stabbed. The London Ambulance Service attended the scene and said crews treated 4 people, 3 of whom were taken to hospital and 1 of whom was discharged. City of London Police said the attack was not being treated as terror-related. Now, for the first time in its 106-year history, the Royal College of Nursing is asking all of its UK members if they are prepared to strike over pay. Their General Secretary, Pat Cullen, has said that the only way to prevent nurses leaving the NHS and to fill thousands of vacancies is to pay them a decent wage. They're asking for a pay rise which exceeds inflation by 5%, adding that nurses will still provide critical care if the strike goes ahead.
When you feel that a government has turned its back on the people that carried us through the pandemic, the people that this government stood on doorsteps and clapped for, and now it's almost as if they're invisible. And the people that are speaking up for their patients and saying, please listen to us, please come on board with us and do the decent thing for nursing staff and for the patients that we're trying to care for. It does seem as if someone needs to listen at some stage, but the government seems to have turned their back on nursing.
There we are, that was Pat Cullen, General Secretary of the Royal College of Nursing. Well, also on their 5th day of strikes are BT and Openreach workers who walked out again today amid an ongoing pay dispute. The Communication Workers Union were joined for the first time by 999 call handlers, a move which is likely to cause disruption to the emergency services. Well, they joined a picket line outside the BT Tower in Fitzrovia this morning.
None of us want to strike. You know, this is our 5th day of industrial action now. We find it very difficult. You know, it's our 5th day without pay, and during this cost of living crisis, you know, everyone is struggling. But we're here today to support our lower colleagues, our lower paid colleagues within the business that are having to go to food banks just to live. We're not that fussed about how much it's going to be. We just want them to come back and negotiate. We want a better deal. We've not asked for a percentage or a certain amount. We just asked them to come back and renegotiate and talk to us.
An ex-Metropolitan Police officer and immigration official at the Home Office has been suspended after a BBC investigation revealed he had been posting racist content on WhatsApp. Rob Lewis is understood to have created the group chat, which included other former Met police officers. Racist messages include topics such as the flooding crisis in Pakistan, in which over 1,000 people lost their lives, the government's Rwanda immigration policy, and comments about Harry and Meghan. BBC Newsnight confirmed that many of the images are racist and too offensive to show, with some containing the very strongest racial slurs. Well, the Home Office called the messages vile and deplorable. Mayor of London Sadiq Khan called for accountability for those involved in the messages and added that the Met had previously been far too weak and slow to act when this kind of unacceptable behaviour has been exposed. The new Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, has assured me he's determined to take a different approach. Now, mortgage rates hit a record high today as it was announced 2-year and 5-year fixed rates now both stand at more than 6% on average for the first time in 14 years. It comes after Prime Minister Liz Truss told the Conservative Party conference that the government was pursuing difficult but necessary choices to get economic growth. Interest rate hikes were sparked by the government's announcement of their mini-budget almost 3 weeks ago, as today Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng met with the UK's banks and building societies amid the mortgage sector turmoil. According to Sky News, the lenders urged the Chancellor to extend the mortgage guarantee scheme, which helps first-time buyers get onto the property ladder. The Metropolitan Police say they have arrested over 20 people at a Just Stop Oil protest in central London. Demonstrators in high-vis orange jackets glued themselves to a road at the top of Whitehall near Trafalgar Square. Some could be seen being carried away by police officers who said protesters were arrested for willful obstruction of the highway. It comes after 54 protesters were arrested on Tuesday after blocking a road by Parliament Square. Just Stop Oil has vowed to continue its campaign until the government meets its demands, which is for no more new oil and gas projects to be approved in the UK. A railway safety watchdog has revealed that 3 passengers were dragged along London Overground platforms in North London within the space of a week. Objects including a walking stick and an umbrella, as well as a person's hand, were trapped in the doors at Seven Sisters, Wembley Central and Crouch Hill stations in June. There were no injuries. Each passenger was standing at the rear door, which is furthest from the cameras used by drivers to check it is safe to depart. Well, the incidents were put down to misaligned cameras, objects thinner than 3 centimetres that failed to be detected by the door system, and some of the white lines closest to the trains needing repainting. The NHS has issued an urgent call for more blood donors from those with black heritage after it was revealed that a record level of blood donations are now needed to treat people with sickle cell disease. Sickle cell is more prevalent in people of black heritage, with the NHS stating that ethnically matched blood provides the best treatment.
I was a little bit nervous, but it didn't hurt. Definitely easier than I thought. It's just a little bit of time, a little bit of effort. It means the world to somebody else, so like it's definitely worth it, and it's definitely something that I will do again. I just feel amazing. Like honestly, it feels really good to like be able to make a difference in someone else's life.
Honestly, I feel so grateful that she's actually doing this for someone else's life.
The actual blood donating part only took about 5 minutes. It's definitely something you could do, like even if you had a busy day. But like Charming, I don't think he would do very well without his monthly blood transfusions. So somebody giving blood would definitely save lives like Charming's.
Felt really good donating today. Like I felt really like happy that I'm able to, you know, contribute to someone else's life and like help them feel better and more healthy.
Giving blood is so quick, so easy. Just do it.
There we go. Well, it's time for a check on London's weather now. It's a warm evening with average temperatures of around 12 degrees overnight. Tomorrow morning, a similar picture to today. The sunny spells continue with light cloud and a moderate breeze, highs of 19 degrees. Looking ahead to the weekend, Saturday is a bright and fresh day. Plenty of sun, but just a few degrees cooler with highs of 16. A similar picture on Sunday, cloudy with sunny intervals and highs of around 18. You're watching London Live News. It's time for a short break now, but when we come back, we speak to our paper reviewer Matt Withers about the stories making headlines this week, including a London Marathon record breaker and one couple's very green way of saving on their energy bills. See you soon. Welcome back to London Live News. It's time now for a look at the stories making headlines in the local papers this week. Well, our paper reviewer Matt Withers joined me earlier, and we started with a licence loss for an events venue in East London.
This is an East London Advertiser, and its headline, Events Venue Loses Licence After Shooting. And this is a venue in Cambridge Heath, which is kind of on the Tower Hamlets Hackney border, which has lost its premises licence after a man opened gunfire there last month. Incredible this hasn't got wider coverage. This is the Oval Space. It's had its licence revoked by Tower Hamlets Council following an incident at a Notting Hill after party on August the 30th. The Met say officers believe a firearm was discharged in the venue before a man was chased out into the street and shot twice. Now, the council Tribunal had this meeting where police went before them and said that this oval space had become controlled by gangs. PC Mark Perry from the police said this is a venue that's been used by gangs and to an extent is controlled by gangs. This is why fights are taking place, why people are bringing in a firearm and swords, and the management have kept silent and not informed police, which seems phenomenal. This has been going on with not just guns, but indeed swords. They gave the council a timeline of events on the night of the shooting. The Met say that man who was believed to be carrying a firearm was allegedly allowed to bypass security and skip the queue before entering the club through a VIP entrance. He was a friend of the promoters, according to police, was embraced by security with a hug and wasn't searched. And this basically ended with somebody being shot within the club and then escaping through a fire exit, being chased into the road and being shot again in the legs. It's quite a story.
Absolutely. What has the venue said about these accusations of gang-related activity?
Well, first of all, they didn't respond to a comment from the East London Advertiser, but they did post on Instagram. They said this incident is not a reflection of the many safe and inclusive events the venue hosts for Londoners each month and has done over many years. We completely dispute any claims that the venue is gang-affiliated. We do acknowledge that security errors were made in relation to this incident, which we take full responsibility for, and we'll be working closely with the relevant authorities to address these issues. You should say that they say that 50 to 70 jobs would be at risk if they were to close, and a petition has been launched to save it with around 1,700 signatures. But those people don't really address the fact that a very serious incident has happened here.
Absolutely. So there is some pushback about the venue potentially closing. OK, let's move on to this. So a man has won an age and discrimination case at a company in East London. It's quite interesting, this.
Yeah, this is from the Romford Recorder. Tribunal slams insurance broker after quotes Pontius Pilate comments about 66-year-old employee. This is an ex-broker who's awaiting compensation after mostly winning an age discrimination case. These things tend not to be zero-sum. But this is David Finch, who told an employment tribunal at the East London Hearing Centre that he was victimised while working at Clegg Gifford & Co Limited. Over the course of 2020, there was a number of allegations involving his then employer. It was said that the company's managing director, Shirley Bellamy, said he had been around, quotes, as long as Pontius Pilate, which is a very specific name to say. In another incident, Mr Finch was asked to bring forward a holiday to Cyprus booked for later in the year, at a time when he'd been told to shield from COVID by his doctor. After telling Miss Bellamy he didn't want to, the tribunal heard she said, "You should take the vacation now, otherwise you may not be around in September or October." And Mr Finch believed this meant he might actually be dead by September or October anyway. The tribunal decided it was likely that Miss Bellamy said this, and they said it may be due to the longevity of her career, but it became apparent from the cross-examination of her that she has a complete lack of equality or diversity training. Well, I'll say.
Yeah, rather the understatement
yes, quite.
Of the century. So a series of comments then made by his employer. So you said he partially won this case.
Yeah, the tribunal said it was objectively capable of being offensive and constitutes a form of harassment. So his claims of victimisation, constructive discrimination-based dismissal, constructive unfair dismissal all succeeded, and his harassment claims partially succeeded. So without knowing the exact legalities of this, there may be some things that weren't quite stood up, but on the whole, it appears that he's won the majority of this case. OK,
right. Well, let's move on next. Now, this story, it really brings new meaning to the phrase green energy.
Yeah, this is remarkable. This is in the Bromley News Shopper. The Bromley couple who never turned their heating on due to hack. The pictures of this are beautiful. It's a retired couple in Bromley who have, according to this, accidentally found the ultimate example of green energy, covering their house in a climbing plant. This is Michael and Teresa Lai, who've got Virginia creeper on their house, which they did try to tame when they first moved into it 4 decades ago. But over the years, they simply stopped trying, and now they're content to let it grow, just having a relative infrequently pruning the leaves, because they say it keeps the house warm in the winter. Well worth having a look at the story. The pictures are remarkable. It really does cover the entire house. Michael, who's 75, says, "We think it acts as natural insulation." Teresa says, "This room is nice and warm. Go into any of the rooms, it's warm." They say that in winter they're toasty, they've got a fan in there, they don't have to put the heating on. I mean, it looks slightly impractical. It certainly stands out in the street, but it works for them.
Where did this plant come from then? How long has it been around their house?
Well, it's been there as long as they moved in. They moved in 1984 when they bought the property for £24,000, which I imagine younger viewers will have their eyes out on stalks at that idea. Apparently, it was located on an estate in the Downham area, which dates back to 1928 and was opened by royalty, who liked it. They said that the houses looked lovely with Virginia creeper on them, and the council started to plant it on all of the houses. And a lot of people got rid of it because, of course, it's an incredibly destructive kind of plant. But for them, it's worked, and they say that people actually stop and take pictures of it. In fact, Michael says here there was a lady out there the other day. I said, "It's £1 a picture." She said, "What?" I said, "I'm only joking. Don't worry." So it's quite clearly, a pair of local characters and a remarkable house. But it's a great story.
Absolutely, somewhat of a local tourist attraction then. Right, well, finally, it was, of course, the London Marathon over the weekend. And now one Londoner has broken one of the more interesting marathon world records.
That's one way of putting it. This is in the South London Press. They start with a woman from Southwark broke one of the more illustrious records held for the world-famous London Marathon on Sunday. You say interesting, I'd say obscure. This is Sadie Smith from Canada Water. Now, she broke the Guinness World Record for the fastest marathon dressed as a three-dimensional body part. And this is a genuine record that the Guinness World Record keeps. And there are very specific rules on this. This has to hold its own shape, cover at least the length of the runner from shoulder to knees, and has to closely resemble this particular body part. Now, Sadie chose a brain cell. She's 32. It took more than 72 hours to make a 3D brain cell costume. She also had to complete the marathon in less than 4.5 hours in order to claim this record. She did it in 4 hours 26 minutes. So fair play to her. She just managed it. She raised £3,000 for charity for Parkinson's UK, a very fine charity. Her father has Parkinson's, so I'm slightly mocking in this very odd record here, but absolutely fair play to her for doing it, and that's a great charity.
There we go, Matt Withers bringing us the local papers. Now, over the last year, the UK has seen the biggest number of charities in a decade remembered in people's wills. The borough of Kingston was amongst the areas with the highest increase in annual gains. Whilst it is seen as a sombre time for many, former Blue Peter presenter Janet Ellis has partnered with Remember a Charity and has been speaking to Henry to share the importance of one's legacy and how to leave a lasting impact with your will.
It is extraordinary how many charities are dependent. In fact, astonishingly, a third of charitable income comes from donations in wills. So a lot of charities simply wouldn't survive without it. And some of them, notably things like lifeboats, 6 out of 10 inshore lifeboats are absolutely launched because of people's gifts in wills. But I think it's something that, and I'm speaking personally here, it's easy to not think about. I mean, for a start, we don't like thinking about wills very much. It's a difficult subject, and one of those you think, yes, I must. I'll do that next week. But also, we are a very generous nation. We do give a lot to charity. And just as an example of that, the amount of money given to charity went up during the pandemic. At a time when you might not have thought that people were thinking more about themselves. We do give. But the legacy aspect, the fact that after, of course, you've looked after your family and friends in your will, that you could give even a small amount. This doesn't have to be headline making stuff. Just a small amount to a charity makes a huge difference. I mean, at the moment, it makes £3 billion worth of difference a year, but I think we can do more.
Well, you mentioned we're a very generous nation, but why do you think we've seen this upward trend then in the last year?
Well, we've had a lot of reminders, especially very recently, about the notion of legacy, haven't we? And we've obviously been thinking about that for some time collectively. And I think in times of difficulty too, we tend to think a little more about the future and whether that's reassuring or not. It's there and we do confront it. And we're better at doing that, I think, as a nation when we bond together over something. And particularly over the last few weeks, losing Queen Elizabeth II made a lot of people think about legacy in all sorts of ways. But I think it's more that recently we are much more connected to each other. We are slowly but surely getting better at talking about death and dying and the implications of that. And the fact that, most solicitors now will stress that it's not difficult to do this stuff. The minute you start talking about wills and lawyers and codicils, I think you can imagine you'll end up in some sort of Dickensian nightmare. But of course, it's not like that. It's really simple. And anecdotally, friends of mine I lost my husband 2 years ago. So we've had a very sharp reminder in my family of the importance of this. But friends of mine who have, as they say, got round to it, afterwards do say, I feel so much better. And I'm now going back to them to say, this is good, but could you just add a codicil after you've looked after everyone that you care about? Could you just add a codicil to make sure that charities that you support now get a little bit afterwards? And I think that's a really nice way of being remembered too.
And for those reasons, is that why you've got on board with Remember a Charity?
Yes, absolutely it is, yeah. I mean, I hate this expression because, after all, John is not here to challenge it, but it is what he would have wanted. You know, we supported charities together, and after he died, there wasn't anything in his will to support a charity further. And the more I found out about it, the more I thought, the charities that we love, whose work we really want to continue, you know, like I say, this is not going to be headline changing stuff. This is not giving all your money to the cat zone kind of thing, although it's completely up to you what you do with it. But I think it's really important to stress that a little makes a big difference. I mean, if those charities that benefit from gifts in wills now get more money from people, then their future is secure. And for some of the smaller charities who might find it more difficult to make a noise, if they're the charity that you support now and you just give a little bit in your will, honestly, it's unbelievably helpful. So, you know, I think this isn't time sensitive. You know, you can do this absolutely when you want to. But if you do it, I think it gives you kind of a good feeling. I mean, it's a bit like planting a tree you'll never see blossom, or, you know, shining a torch down a path you won't walk. There's something very comforting to know that that part of your legacy, at least, is secure.
There we go. That was Janet Ellis talking about leaving a lasting impact. You're watching London Live News with Helena Wadia. A reminder of our top story coming up after the break. Plus, one London-based anti-homelessness charity is preparing for its annual Sleep Out this weekend, aiming to raise funds to help people experiencing homelessness in the capital.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back to London Live News, a reminder of some of the stories affecting Londoners today. 3 people have been stabbed as members of the public tried to intervene in a phone snatch robbery in central London. According to witnesses, a group of 2 or 3 masked people, thought to be teenagers, grabbed a pedestrian just before 10 a.m. this morning in Bishopsgate near Liverpool Street Station. Members of the public then sought to intervene to stop them, and in a situation described by one witness as escalating so quickly, 3 people were stabbed. The London Ambulance Service attended the scene and said crews treated 4 people, 3 of whom were taken to hospital and 1 of whom was discharged. Now, for the first time in its 106-year history, the Royal College of Nursing is asking all of its UK members if they are prepared to strike over pay. Their General Secretary, Pat Cullen, has said that the only way to prevent nurses leaving the NHS and to fill thousands of vacancies is to pay them a decent wage. They're asking for a pay rise which exceeds inflation by 5%, adding that nurses will still provide critical care if the strike goes ahead.
When you feel that a government has turned its back on the people that carried us through the pandemic, the people that this government stood on doorsteps and clapped for, and now it's almost as if they're invisible. And the people that are speaking up for their patients and saying, please listen to us, please come on board with us and do the decent thing for nursing staff and for the patients that we're trying to care for. It does seem as if someone needs to listen at some stage, but the government seems to have turned their back on nursing.
There we are, that was Pat Cullen, General Secretary of the Royal College of Nursing. Well, also on their 5th day of strikes are BT and Openreach workers who walked out again today amid an ongoing pay dispute. The Communication Workers Union were joined for the first time by 999 call handlers, a move which is likely to cause disruption to the emergency services. Well, they joined a picket line outside the BT Tower in Fitzrovia this morning.
None of us want to strike. You know, this is our 5th day of industrial action now. We find it very difficult. You know, it's our 5th day without pay, and during this cost of living crisis, you know, everyone is struggling. But we're here today to support our lower colleagues, our lower paid colleagues within the business that are having to go to food banks just to live. We're not that fussed about how much it's going to be. We just want them to come back and negotiate. We want a better deal. We've not asked for a percentage or a certain amount. We just asked them to come back and renegotiate.
Now, London-based anti-homelessness charity Glassdoor is doing its annual Sleep Out tomorrow in the Duke of York Square in Chelsea, aiming to raise £200,000. The charity partners with churches and community centres to give shelter and support to people experiencing homelessness in the capital. And it's not too late to sign up. Well, Hebe spoke to the charity ahead of the Sleep Out.
Sleep Out is one of Glassdoor Homeless Charity's big annual events, and this year it will be our 10th Sleep Out. It started back in 2013, and the idea is that people come along with their friends or their work colleagues and do just as it says on the tin. They sleep out for the night, they sleep out on the streets. We're very lucky to have the support from the Cadogan Estates, and they give us the use of the Duke of York Square in Chelsea, where people come along, they register at 8:30 and quite simply sleep out in their sleeping bags, hopefully some warm clothes, and raise awareness of homelessness in London, and also raise money for Glassdoor Homeless Charity.
And I'm going to say this, as you said, it's your 10th, so it must be really efficient at raising money and awareness, and you're looking to raise 200,000 this event. What are you going to do with that money? How's it going to help people who are homeless at the moment in the capital?
Hebe, we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Inflation is over 10% and it continues to grow. Rents in the private sector, are at record levels, and benefits actually only rose by 3.1%. And as we know, wages have stagnated. So people are right now facing a really stark choice. Some people have to make a choice between buying food for their family or paying their rent. The latest data shows that 2,998 people were sleeping rough on the streets in London between April and June this year. And, we are here as an organisation to help some of those people who are sleeping rough. We also provide casework services throughout the year, helping people who are facing homelessness or living in unsafe accommodation to end the cycle of homelessness. And the money raised at the Sleep Out event will help us fund that work.
Do you guys have a call on the government, amid this cost of living crisis? And as you say, they've been challenged on the on whether or not benefits are going to be raised in line with inflation. We haven't yet got an answer. What is your call, before we have an answer on that, to the government? What's Glassdoor's stance on that?
Yeah, well, along with many other organisations in the capital that support people who are facing homelessness, of course we are interested to see what the government are doing. Just a couple of weeks ago, they relaunched the Rough Sleeping Strategy, and in that strategy, the government they sort of outlined a number of different measures they were taking in order to address the high levels of homelessness that still exist in London. And we're really keen to see how that strategy progresses, and very much want to be part of the conversation along with many other organisations to address some key issues. For example, the benefits gap, the fact that we have so many people. And one of the unique things about Glassdoor is that we help people. We have what's called an open access policy. So we help anyone, regardless of their status. But there's a lot of people in London who have, no access to public funds. They don't meet the criteria that's currently set out by the government to access the support they need. So we're calling upon the government to look at those individuals, address the needs of those individuals, and also the general public, because many people, Hebe, now are facing a crisis that they perhaps never thought they would face. So many people now are making really difficult choices that they probably never thought they would need to.
You yourself, you're taking part in the Sleep Out, aren't you?
I am indeed. So this will be my first time that I'm taking part in the Sleep Out. I'm really looking forward to it, but actually I'm also quite anxious because I've never slept I've never slept on the streets of London before. I'm in a very lucky position. I've never had to do that, but I've heard lots of feedback from past participants. People are really struck, for example, about the level of noise that they can hear throughout the night. People are struck by the fact that they feel really vulnerable. And that's really interesting for these individuals. It's just one night, but to be out on the streets during what will be a cold night, we're hoping that it won't rain, but it often does for those people that do need to sleep on the streets. That's their only choice. So I am really looking forward to it. But also, as I say, I'm anxious because I think it's an experience that I've, luckily never had before.
As we go into the cold season, it gets a lot tougher sleeping outside, doesn't it? Are you guys gearing up for that and preparing for lots more people coming forward and looking for shelter?
I'm really pleased to say that this year Glassdoor Homeless Charity is going to be running its emergency winter night shelters again. And those night shelters will be open from the 5th of December to the 26th of March. And we run those in 3 boroughs across London, the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, Hammersmith and Fulham and Wandsworth. And we provide shelter every single night of the week for our guests. And in that shelter, we provide a safe space, a hot meal, and access to other support, which enables them, hopefully, to move on out of the cycle of homelessness.
There we are. Well, if you want to take part or donate, registration is still open and you can find out more on the Glassdoor website. It's time for a final break now, but when we come back, bringing traditional art to a new digital generation. New installation Frameless comes to Marble Arch. Stay with us.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Hello there, welcome back to the final part of London Live News. Now, runners, cyclists and sailors from around the country have come together to smash a record of an over 7,000-kilometre non-stop relay from Scotland to Egypt, all in the name of climate action. The relay is starting from Glasgow and passing through London this weekend, aiming to help deliver a message on climate action to the world's leaders at COP27, which is taking place in Egypt. Well, Hebe spoke to an organiser of the relay, and here's what he said.
The Running Out of Time relay is a 7,500 kilometre non-stop run, cycle and sailing event that starts in Glasgow and finishes in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt.
So you guys are going to be running through London, and you're going to be there on Saturday the 8th of October. Tell me a bit about how long it's taken to get from Glasgow to London.
Yeah, sure. So we set out from Glasgow on Friday the 30th of September with some amazing school kids who launched the event in style with Nicole, Aaron and Alfie reading the message in the baton. It's then taking 8 days to reach London. So we were in London on the 8th of October. We welcome people to come and join us there. We'll be at the Scoop in the heart of London, where people can come and be a part of this epic event.
What are you doing with the money you guys raise?
So the event is raising money for two climate charities. So one is FEE, the Foundation for Environmental Education, and the other is Carbon Copy. So both amazing environmental organisations. We are supporting their projects. We're visiting many projects along the route. Many people will be really familiar with the work they do. So they're behind things like the Blue Flag programme, Green Key, Eco Schools. So that's what we're raising money for, and awareness as well for those two organisations.
I really like your play on the words, the name of the relay, which is Running Out of Time Relay, which kind of signals the message you're trying to give with doing this run. But what are you urging people to do, and what are you raising awareness for?
Yeah, absolutely. So we called it Running Out of Time because the climate clock, which is in Times Square in New York, ticked over to below 7 years. So at the time of launching the run, it was down to 6 years, 295 days. And that is the time remaining to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. So we're literally running out of time to make sure that we're making the changes needed, adapting as necessary to limit global warming. And within the baton itself is a message that's been created by young people that we've placed inside, and getting it all the way to Egypt without the use of fossil fuels. So as I say, we're running, sailing and cycling there. And we're trying to arrive in Egypt in a way that world leaders can't ignore. So bringing this message in a way that grabs their attention, and it's really calling upon them to turn their words into action. This is the most important climate conference of the decade, and this is their opportunity to make that change happen. So that's what we're calling for, and we're running out of time to do that.
And I was going to say, the reason you're running to Sharm el-Sheikh is because of COP27, as you say, where most important people in the world who can help change this they'll be there. What is your call to them to do right now? As you say, the clock is ticking, and I've seen that Times Square clock, and it's really, really effective the way it makes you feel when you see it. What are you hoping that will come out of COP27? What change are we going to see, do you hope?
Yeah, well, we're really hoping for the changes, turning those words into action. So that means proper funding, policy changes, across all nations. We have an event that we're actually doing in COP itself with our partner FEE and UNESCO. So we are, during COP on November 14th, I believe the event is. We would love as many world leaders to attend that as possible, where we'll not only be kind of showcasing the story of the baton arriving in Egypt, but it's the opportunity there to really reinforce to world leaders the changes that need to be made, and the opportunities that they have to make those changes. So that's what we're hoping to achieve.
Well, that record-breaking relay lasts until the start of November, and you can find out more on runningoutofTime.com. Now, coming to Marble Arch is a brand new installation that hopes to bring traditional art to a new digital generation. Frameless is the UK's first permanent immersive art experience at this scale, providing a multi-sensory journey through 4 different galleries, containing world-famous artworks from Munch, Monet and more. Well, Paul has been speaking to the co-curator Rose Balston to find out more.
Frameless is a really exciting new initiative which is opening up in early October in Marble Arch, and it is a place where people can come to be really immersed in the story of Western art history. We have 4 different gallery spaces which focus on 4 different storylines, if you like. And what we hope, and in fact what I know is going to happen, is that people are going to move into these galleries and have a very, hopefully at times profound experience, have a very emotional experience and a very inspiring experience, all of which is bound up in this very powerful story of Western art history.
Are you able to share with us which sort of famous artworks are going to be displayed, and how, if you know and are able to talk about it, how does the technology work to display these pieces?
So we have 4 gallery spaces. We have The World Around Us, which is looking at landscape artists from the 16th through to the 20th century. We have Colour in Motion, which is focusing on this period in art history that encapsulates Impressionism, Neo-Impressionism, and Post-Impressionism. We have Abstraction, the art of abstraction, and the room is looking specifically at those early moments in the story of pure abstraction. And we also have Beyond Reality, which is a journey through time, a little like The World Around Us, where we are moving from the 16th to the 20th century, looking at these ideas of dreams and surrealism and a place that we go that is beyond our own reality. Now, we have included a number of well-known artists. You will find in these galleries Monet, you will find Rembrandt, you will find Rubens and Kandinsky, and big names that people have heard of. But what we've also been very keen to do is showcase some other lesser-known artists in order to try and bring these people to the fore, and that includes female artists as well. We've been so excited to include Hilma af Klint, Bert Morisot, Raquel Rausch into this story, so that people who might not necessarily have heard of these artists can go out and explore and learn more. It's not just the big hitters.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what immersive art actually is, for those of our viewers who might not know? And why do you think these kind of experiences are taking off?
The way in which it's been developed here at Frameless is with a very conscious effort to have a different immersive experience within each gallery. So in one gallery, there is like a maze type immersive experience. In another gallery, it's very much to do with mirrors and reflection. In another gallery, it is a very physical experience you have with the actual brushstrokes that the artist was painting themselves. So we have different types of immersion here. The purpose of these immersive experiences is to highlight art in a different way. We're not saying this is a better way. We are still, of course, championing art in the galleries, and we see this as a really exciting conduit that can allow people to learn and have this very physical experience here, and then go to the galleries and see the real pieces of art themselves. Hopefully it'll be deeply inspiring and people will want to learn more and see more.
What's the scale of the cultural impact and success that maybe you're envisaging from this display?
I think Frameless is going to have a really important role to play within the cultural story of London as it stands at the moment. I do believe that this is going to become a very key visitor attraction in London. And also, for me as an art historian, I also believe that this is going to be a very useful tool to work alongside the major galleries within London, to go kind of hand in hand with each other.
And you can see Frameless up close by visiting the space in Marble Arch from tomorrow. Right, time for a final check on the weather now. It's a warm evening with average temperatures of around 12 degrees overnight. Tomorrow morning, a similar picture to today. The sunny spells continue with light clouds and a moderate breeze, highs of 19 degrees. Looking ahead to the weekend, Saturday is a bright and fresh day, plenty of sun, but just a few degrees cooler at highs of 16. A similar picture on Sunday, cloudy with sunny interval and highs of around 18. Well, that's all for this evening, and you can follow us on social media at London Live. But for now, have a lovely evening, and we'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m.